Alright, we are seeing some volatile price action on the charts here with Bitcoin sweeping that liquidity that we had been talking about. And after respecting this value area low here, we are shooting back up here on price, turning this daily candle into a nice green hammer with a massive wick to the downside, looking like it wants to give us that close above this daily EMA that we have been saying needs to get held in bull markets historically. This is something that you do want to stay above for bullish continuation. So this wick to the downside is actually kind of best case scenario because we grabbed all of this liquidity that I had been worried about, right? We had a lot of longs that had been opened after this initial short squeeze up here on price. So essentially when we left this low end range, this move right here was a short squeeze, and then we saw our longs starting to open throughout this entire uptrend within here. So coming down to grab all of those late longers, flushing out all of this stuff is actually very bullish on the charts, cleaning out that liquidity before the continuation up on higher. And at this point, with the buying pressure we saw within this low, I do think it is more likely than not we do go ahead and hunt for those all-time highs as we've been talking about, and that the CME gap down below price at around 66k. We have this CME gap that's in this golden pocket, swing low, swing high. This is kind of the worst case scenario for a bullish correction, right? We could have come down all the way to this box and it would have made sense, but I think with what we're seeing in this area right here, that buying pressure, that sweep of liquidity and resumption of back above the daily EMA, it makes more sense in my opinion that the low is in and we're going to start hunting to all-time highs finally. But of course, it's all just probabilities, and at the end of the day, we still have this big level that could potentially get grabbed. And if you are trying to FOMO in long right now, you have pretty bad risk to reward because your invalidation for this trade is still this wick low. So I'm not saying to FOMO into leveraged longs right now or anything like that, but overall I still remain with my bullish sentiment and believing that all-time highs is going to start to get hunted, especially because we took out this downside liquidity that we'll take a look at in a second. But before we do jump into that, let me remind you guys, I'm still partnered with BingX and Blowfin, so no longer have the event anymore for BingX, but you can still use my affiliate links in the description down below. Help support the channel, and those are some really awesome exchanges. BingX does now require KYC, but Blowfin does not. So if you are looking for a good exchange to do leveraged trading, Blowfin's really great for that. And then of course, join my Discord. That's the first link in my description down below. And if you do leveraged trade and want some valuable information when it comes to that, go ahead and check out the Crypto Eagles VIP. That's my premium Discord. That is still 50% off right now. So it's only $20 for the first month, but it is just for 1 month at $20 off, not the 3 months as the previous promotion I had running. So this will be the last month you can get that premium Discord. You can try it out for just $20 a month. After August, that's going to go to $40, and I don't think I'm going to have any more discounts after that. So if you're at all interested, go ahead, check out those links in the description down below. But enough of that, let's get into the price action. Let's go ahead and visualize that liquidity that I was talking about at the beginning of the video, and opening up our liquidation heat map over here on CoinAnk. This is that high liquidity node that I had suspected could get swept. This was a very likely level for price to start hunting towards after we had made this corrective move, and we have gone ahead and grabbed all of that liquidity, piercing right into this liquidity gap just right above it, and now sending price back on up. I do think it's more likely than not at this point that the top side liquidity is now going to be hunted, especially on the higher term timeframes. When we jump out to the 6-month chart, you will see that there is a ton of liquidity above all-time highs, and at this point it certainly makes sense for Bitcoin to start magneting up there, and that's of course pretty exciting. I will say though, we're not 100% out of the woods yet. There's still the chance we do grab lower over here on Trading Light. These were my sweep levels, right? Liquidity is built under previous wicks, which I have marked out by these dashed yellow lines, and you can see price deviated below this and got back above, but it didn't quite grab under 62,188. So that doesn't mean that it has to get grabbed, but there is the potential, go ahead and grab it. I would say though, at this point, the buyers have shown that they don't want it to get grabbed. They want to hold that as a higher low, and this was enough for market makers. Now we should start heading on up with haste. Speaking of market makers, we had talked about these big buy walls in yesterday's video and how I suspected with this much buying pressure, maybe this becomes the low, right? A deviation below this sweep level here. But just because a whale is limiting in billions of dollars, this was billions of dollars, by the way. Not every day you see this much volume in the order books on Binance, especially from just one person. You can tell pretty clearly this is all from one person using an API to stagger their limits. They go ahead and push price up, but it does fail. It does get back below because, well, the market knows the true liquidity is still lower and we had not grabbed all of it yet. Market forces back down because it's truly bearish up here and it doesn't care about these buy walls. This person actually does end up filling these walls. So he's filling billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and if he's on high leverage, he could be part of this liquidity event down here, or he could just be on low leverage and be just continuing to stack orders because we do see more big walls down here at the lows. Couple more thousand Bitcoin forcing up price down here after this kind of initial pump up here on the charts. And I was looking to potentially get into a long here, but I actually missed this move because we hadn't swept this, so I wasn't like super confident on it, right? I was waiting for a full sweep. Also, we didn't have a failed auction down here, right? Unfinished auction, as well as I just didn't get filled because it didn't tap the golden pocket, right? Whenever I see stuff that looks good, but it's not perfect, I want to get that risk to reward in my favor. I want to limit in here, and then I want to have my stop here. Essentially, to get this, I would have had to limit up higher, and that would have made my risk to reward a little bit greater doing that. So I didn't place any blind limits on it. Kind of missed this move to the upside. I was busy this morning, so I wasn't watching the charts and didn't get this like back test of the sweep level. You see in here we get back above the sweep convincingly and start back testing it. This was your sign to maybe mark it in, but that's okay. Sometimes you're just going to miss the long. There's always another trade, and I care more about short positions honestly than longs right now because I'm all in on spot. I'd rather hedge my portfolio than take on more risk. But yeah, overall this looks pretty bullish. I like to see that open interest came up into this level. CVD was going down. Lots of shorts are being opened down here at the lows, and open interest has not reset yet. So I would not suspect a high comes in until this does reset, squeezing out all of those short positions. And then after that squeeze, then we could be potentially looking at more of a corrective move. But so far, lots of shorts are still trapped. So we have that feel for a move up higher. So yeah, overall, when it comes to Bitcoin right now, extremely bullish on the charts. I like that we grabbed all of these lows within here, took out that liquidity, and went ahead and tested the range low, which we had been talking about. This range within here could be tested another time before that continuation on up higher. And I do expect that is what is in play now, but don't necessarily just be FOMOing into longs because we still got imbalances that we can reject off of, and a bullish correction back to this golden pocket is always something that is expected. So you can just keep pulling your fibs. If you really want to get into a position, you can then have a good risk to reward golden pocket entry, maybe midway between the low and 886 for that stop loss, and that could be advantageous, but you're going to be needing to do more than just blind limits if you're entering leverage. There's a lot more to it than just a fib level, so keep that in mind. But let's go ahead and talk about some of these other charts in the traditional finance world because they are doing a similar thing to Bitcoin, such as the Russell. We talked about how its swing failed at these highs. Could have been a warning of a bigger correction within here, and we have gotten that correction, now sweeping these lows, and it's not the end of the world as long as we're holding this previous bull market range within here. That's all good. The value area low of this range comes in at around 2175, which we are above right now. So the Russell just maintaining this range, even if we are to just trade sideways. I mean, this is where you saw your altcoin market explode in 2021. So where we are right now on the Russell does not concern me. It's bullish that we are still maintaining the bull market range, but let's watch it closely, right? We do have that swing failure of the highs, and we don't want to break this range and backtest it as resistance. That would look pretty bad, so we'll be watching out for that. Similar thing happening over here on the S&P. We have filled this gap to the downside, and unfortunately we actually got below it, right? We couldn't quite find nice support in there, but we are still holding these higher lows. I do think there's a chance these lows get swept though, so just be kind of cautious here on the S&P. I still think on a macro basis, when we're looking at the 1 month time frame, this is kind of a scary chart, right? Big parabola from 1964, below off top, When this thing does actually roll over, it's going to be pretty violent to the downside, and it will mark a macro top, in my opinion, for the entire US economy. So still going to watch this chart like a hawk, but I do still think at the end of the day, we are going to have that final wave of the parabola, right? And this could just be your last pullback before you do get those waves. We're still making a smaller pullback than we had previously. On the charts, each pullback in this cycle has gotten smaller and smaller, and each time we have these pullbacks, our angle of attack steepens 32 degrees here from swing low, swing high. This one 35 degrees. Potentially this next one would be much steeper. Potentially, let's just say 50 degrees, 49 degrees, something like that. Of course, these degrees change, depending on what angle I'm looking at it on the chart. So if you're measuring these yourself, that's why you're going to get a different angle of attack on there. But you can see, yes, they have gotten steeper. So this last angle of attack should be the steepest and most violent before we do finally make that macro top in the stock market, before the potential Great Depression 2.0 that I have been talking about, with unemployment coming up sharply, just like it did back in 2008 and 2000. Of course, the dot-com bubble and great financial crisis. And we also have this Fed rate cut that is projected for September now. It's a pretty much 100% guarantee it's going to be for September. And historically, that does mark around where the top comes in markets on a macro basis. So lots of reasons to be kind of worried on the higher term time frames, but lots of reasons to be very bullish on the immediate term timeframes, right? If we are going to go into a dot-com bubble, what do you have before those events? Well, you have max euphoria in the markets leading up into it. And of course, the most speculated asset right now is crypto. So yeah, I think that just about covers it for today. I like that we found nice support on this level, and we have gotten a move up here with haste. Just don't be FOMOing longs, because a bullish pullback is probably in the cards, and a potential sweep of this is still in play. Like, we still have the CME gap down here. This doesn't have to be your low, but I do kind of expect it to be the low, mainly because of this daily EMA on the daily time frame. This structurally should not get broken. Just looking at this simply, we should be holding this, and if we are to lose it, that would look much more bearish. So I would expect, potentially another wick down here, but we should be closing our dailies back above this daily EMA, and for that continuation to send us to all-time highs, squeezing this top side liquidity. But if you do have any questions about anything I talked about, or just want to join the community for this channel, link to my Discord is at the top of the description down below. Also, that VIP Discord is linked right below that. Click on the link to learn more and use that discount code EAGLE for 50% off for your first month. And also, don't forget, I got links to some of my favorite exchanges, such as Blowfin and BingX. So go ahead, use those referrals if you're at all interested. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.